night, nation. Trey Strelko here. This is the Sons of UCF Live. Adam here, as is Leo Rodriguez. UCF Mike off tonight. Gentlemen, may the 4th be with you.
Fun fact, Trace, I've never seen an episode of Star Wars in my life.
Never?
Not even one.
That's a big yikes, Adam.
Not even one.
I don't know how,
you don't like space and science fiction, or what is the reason for this?
Yes, I like the space game, not space movies.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask about Star Trek, but that's out the window.
Never seen Star Trek either, Leo. No, nothing.
So what if you watched one of them,
Yeah.
and you might get a... No? You're not even gonna try at this point in your life?
I've made it this far. I feel like I'm gonna be okay. You know, I mean, I've come this far with it. I feel like I can live with it. Never seen a Star Wars, Star Trek. I'm not into the sci-fi stuff. That's just not my thing.
Leo, are you
welcome
a fan?
I'm actually a huge Star Wars fan. But I will say with Adam, I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but there's something special about Star Wars. There is something. There's like an it factor to that film or to the films that it's actually intriguing. But I will not go out of my way to watch a lot of sci-fi films. So
here's the thing, Trey. I'm a realism guy. Like, so if it can't really happen, then I really have a hard time. There's a lot of movies I have to really suspend. But I watched Top Gun, Maverick. I had not seen it yet on the airplane on my latest business trip. And there's a few times I have to suspend reality when, spoiler alert, Tom Cruise crashes in the middle of the frozen tundra and somehow just walks out alive. I have to suspend reality in those moments. But sci-fi just makes my brain bend in a way I can't relate. Also, never seen Harry Potter. Don't know anything about it.
Same. I'm not a Harry Potter guy either. So, yeah, toss that one out the window for me.
Yeah. What about your kids, Adam? They don't
I've seen my kids.
No, I know that, but Star Wars.
I believe no Star Wars in the family. I believe one of my children has watched Harry Potter. It's the one that I cut out of my will, so I forget which one.
Well, all right then. May the 4th be with the rest of you who care about Star Wars. Big 12 spring meetings going on. A couple of topics of interest out of there. You know, I want to start off with saying that for many years, through many programs, I have blasted AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco as not being particularly innovative. You know, hey, Power 6, how's that going? But when Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, you can't say that this guy is not trying. The news from SI.com, Big 12 talking with its media partners about modernizing the broadcast as early as this fall, so just a couple of months away. They're mentioning live in-game interviews, more access to locker rooms before and after games, and recording live audio of coaches before the game and beyond and throughout. So I think we've seen this with the XFL, the USFL. They're trying to be innovative, give you the access. What do you make of that, Adam?
I'm intrigued by the idea. I like the forward thinking. I agree that the XFL, USFL have sort of blazed a bit of a trail here, but I'm also realistic enough to go, you're not going to hear anything of substance in these conversations, right? You're going to hear everybody go play harder, rebound. I mean, the NBA does it, right? When they go to the coaches and we got to play back defense. So I don't think you're hearing anything of substance. The XFL stuff is cool because you get to hear some things you're probably not meant to hear because it's live running mics. I don't think that's what the Big 12 has in mind. So I applaud them for the forward thinking. I applaud them for taking a step in that direction. But realistically, I highly doubt you're going to hear Gus Malzahn give a play call on 2nd and 4 in the live in-game audio, right? It's going to be more of those, we got to keep fighting, boys, and that's what you're going to hear. So applaud, but I'm also not necessarily expecting much out of it.
Leo.
Yeah, I applaud Brett Yormark. I think he's a very, very audacious guy. With everything that he's been doing with the conference, expanding it, and we'll talk a little bit more about going to Mexico. But the whole going into huddles and maybe getting one-on-one interviews, like Adam said, it's not going to be anything crazy. But it does separate the conference from others, and I think that's always nice. Anything you can get to separate yourselves from SEC or another conference is it's a plus in my eyes.
Trace, I will say one of the things the NFL does really well is they tape during the games, and then like midweek, like Tuesday or Wednesday, they put out a show where it's like the best sound. I think it's called soundtracks from the games that week. if they did something like that, now you get alternate night of programming, maybe get some insight of some players mic'd up. You have 2 or 3 days to edit it and cut it down to something useful. That might be an attention grabber, right? I could see myself listening on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, watching a show like that, seeing if there's any commentary. So you could piece that into a second round of programming, the midweek programming. I'd be into that. So will they use it innovatively? Maybe, but I mean, I don't in game and your in game experience. I would temper your expectations.
Whenever we see innovations like this, and even the change with NIL and the collectives, I can't help but think of George O'Leary in moments like this. How different this game is from when he coached just at UCF, right? Can you imagine? I know they're used to that, either going into the locker room at halftime, which he never said anything there, or coming out of the locker room at halftime, also never said anything there. But can you imagine if they were to do something where they mic'd him, or they tried to talk to him during the game? You see this, Major League Baseball does this with these between inning, talks to the coaches, and they're so focused on the game, you don't get much good stuff from them. But I do support this. I think what's interesting is Brett Yarmark, especially coming from the background that he's had, he's looking at everything in a different set of eyes, right? He's got that entertainment background, so he's trying to see how can he make the visual and audio presentation of games more interesting. So from that regard, I think what he's trying to do is change that would benefit the Big 12 and the entire television landscape.
But Trace, George O'Leary is the exact reason why I would want to do this, right? Because you won't hear anything from him. He might say something a little funny, maybe a little crazy, maybe a little stupid on the sideline, right? That's the reason you want to do this. But the Big 12 is not going to put their coaches on blast like that, right? They're not going to have Dana Holgerson saying the most idiotic thing of all time be what's on the broadcast. There's probably some nuggets of like some outtakes that would make for gold if you put it behind a paywall. But I don't think they're going to give you, some of the commentary you want. But George O'Leary is the exact reason why I would want this, because I'd love to hot mic on George O'Leary throughout a game. I would pay premium money to hear what GOL would have said during some of those things. But again, why is the Big 12 going to put their coaches out like that, make them look foolish, or give away something like that?
Well, maybe you could do something where you're micing players. We see UCF do this very well with behind-the-scenes coverage, such as miking punter Mitch McCarthy a couple of weeks ago. Maybe somebody that's not quite as involved in the full game action might be interesting, especially some of the characters that develop on a roster. You can think of some, Leo, right? And all across all sports, it would be interesting to follow.
Yeah, and Adam, you're talking about coaches, right? And I would say much less the officials. And something that I've enjoyed watching the XFL this season, watching the officiating behind, closed doors and what they're actually seeing. I can't imagine colleges, or a conference putting their officials on blast like that. But I would absolutely love to see the officiating behind closed doors.
Well, and we all know coaches are paranoid. I mean, Gus Malzahn, for all intents and purposes, wouldn't open the spring game to a live stream, right? Because you want to protect the playbook. There's no way he's going to be willing to say something on a hot mic, or I imagine if there's objections periods where he can raise his hand and say, "Hey, I don't like this idea." I imagine the line starts behind Gus in terms of what he wants to share with the public, rightfully so, by the way. But coaches are paranoid to a fault. I think this live mic's gonna scare the bejesus out of them.
Well, you make mention of that, and I saw the comment just scroll across the screen. It was George O'Leary that opened up all practices to fans and members of the media. It's been subsequent coaches that have put a lid on that. Hey, Adam, Leo,
yes.
You were watching. I need you to scratch something out of your rundown. You mentioned XFL. We were supposed to have XFL, former UCF wide receiver Rennell Hall. There's a bit of a scheduling conflict, so it does not appear as Rennell Hall will be joining us at 8:10. So scratch that off your rundown. We will talk about one of the other items that are coming out of Big 12 spring game. Houston Chronicle reporting that Brett Yarmark again talking about staging football, men's and women's basketball games in Mexico. Mexico City might be the host for men's basketball. Houston mentioned as one of the teams, 22,000 seat arena there. In Monterrey, Mexico, a 53,000 seat football stadium. And he's also talking about, depending on the success of this, future games in Europe and Africa. This one I'm not as keen on after some thought about it in the last day or so.
Yeah, I lovingly call this the UCF Mike rule, right? Because Mike's not going to Lubbock to watch UCF play. But if UCF laced him up there in Mexico City, you might get UCF Mike to head over to Mexico City for a game or two. So I call this the UCF Mike rule. And look, let's be honest about college football, guys. We all love it. It's a very regionalized sport, right? Like you live in a region, you follow the teams in that region. And so this is a great opportunity for your mark to go to, areas where there may not be a stronghold of college football fans, introduce them to a couple of teams and hope that they then latch on for a long term, right? Like for 4 years, I lived out in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and college football Saturday would come around, and Trace, Leo, nobody cared. Like I'd come into the office on Monday, be like, "Hey, the big game." And they're like, "Yeah, I don't what game? Who played?"
Yeah.
And nobody cared except for folks who went to schools. I had a buddy who worked there, went to Michigan. He loved the Wolverines, but outside of that, nobody cares. So I think there's pockets of the country, and then pockets perhaps internationally, where there's opportunity to grab eyeballs, to grab ears, to grab dollars. And I applaud your mark for saying, hey, let's try this. Let's see if we can get some of that attention. Plus, again, the UCF Mike rule. I promise you, if UCF plays Lubbock in what are my options here? Monterey.
Texas
UCF
Tech
Mike
in Monterey.
Well, Texas Tech in Monterey. Mike, flying the jet, not going to Lubbock. So you may get some fans who want to take an adventure trip to some of these cities. If they go to Europe, I know Leo's in already. UCF Mike's already in at that point. So I think this is the UCF Mike rule.
Well, Leo, let's on this point here, right? It sounds fine if UCF set to play Houston in a Houston home game moved to Monterey. Are you as happy about this idea with UCF moving one of its home games?
Yeah, if it's a home game, as a fan, obviously, I wouldn't be too happy about it. If it's other schools moving their home games, then I'm all in for it, right? That's great. Obviously, it's not going to work like that. It's got to be, tick for tat. So, Houston's going to take a home game away. UCF also has to take a home game away. So, if I'm going to Mexico City, and something I'd like to add to this is the game of football. It might be regional in the United States. I think the United States is very, very far from seeing the obsession that there are in other countries, or maybe there are people that know the obsession that in like Europe and Mexico. It's growing. I think that Adam hit it on the nail. There's going to be eyes that are going to be interested in attending one of these games, and it's not necessarily going to be people flying from the States to go watch. So.
Well, I'm going to drag a mailbag question up. Our buddy Dolly Drama asking, which opponent location would you like to see UCF participate in? Do you like the idea of the global footprint for the new conference? All I'm saying is I am not interested in UCF trading a home football game for one of these destinations. Road game, move the Lubbock game, that's fine. And, Adam, you said it, a regional sport. This is so far removed from what these conferences and their geographic footprints were supposed to be, where you could hop in the car and within a couple hours drive, see your team play, as the Southeast Conference was, right, in its formation. That's all gone with this far-flung league now. So I understand what Brett Yarmark's trying to do. The interest, though, what is the interest in watching Big 12 sports in Mexico? You understand the interest in the NBA and the NFL. Those are global brands. Is there a lot of interest? It's got to be the right matchup, and it's got to be some of those Texas teams involved, maybe a BYU, but Cincinnati, Kansas, and Monterey, who's buying tickets for that novelty?
Yeah, I think Dolly actually, with his comment on screen live now, I think this is a much better idea from a basketball standpoint. There's so many games that are played. And if that's the case, UCF need not apply to play internationally at that point.
We're not even involved in that big East Challenge, right? Or whatever that one is. They're not even
Although we're going to Italy. Yay. But we need not apply to play that. The football would be challenging. I think, is it an exhibition? Do you do like a season kickoff that's down there, right? Both teams kind of lose again. I mean, that's really the only thing. Sorry, Dolly's comment kills me. That's really the only thing I can think of.
The only sensible thing that I think makes sense here is definitely having an opening kickoff where it's two ranked teams of the Big 12 going at it. You know how they have it in Dallas, in the AT&T Stadium, and in Atlanta. I think that would be great in Mexico City or in Monterey, but taking a home game like that, I don't, or multiple home games, I'm not a fan of that. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think the point there, it's not going to be UCF that they're going to have prime interest in, but we're going to continue to hear from Brett Yormark, right? He's going to continue to innovate. We've talked about it over the months, right? Talking about staging the combine, or not the combine, but the pro days all in one location. That is different than what we have seen, and he's going to continue to make waves. And right back to my point, he is the opposite of Oresco in trying to be innovative and disturb the status quo.
Well, and you know what this is, Trace. You, me, and Leo have blabbered on now for 13 minutes about this, right? And I saw this in The Athletic. I saw this in ESPN. I saw this in Sports Illustrated, right? He's continuing to have ways to get his conference out there to talk about stuff, right? What's going on with the ACC? Anybody know? Anything going on with the Big Ten? I know they have a new
They're
commissioner.
locked into their TV deal till 2036. That's the only thing we know.
But you're hearing Big 12 stories over and over again. Some of them are expansion related, but this is a good opportunity to get the Big 12 name out there again. Now people are talking about it. It's also the middle of nowhere time. So this is the time where there's so much airwave available to sports radio shows, podcasts, where now you can get a show to devote some time to this. Again, more Big 12 branding. I think in that respect, remains to be seen if he can run a good league. I mean, we haven't even, really played a full schedule with this new roster that's coming up. So don't know if he's a great commissioner from that standpoint, but from a marketing branding standpoint, I mean, you got to give the guy an A- at this point, perhaps, and what he's done for the conference.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that Yormark, as I said earlier, is very audacious with this move. I'm personally a huge fan of taking.
Is this the second time, Leo? You're trying to show off your vocabulary there?
Yeah. I've said it twice already, so it's but no, for me, I love the idea. I love the idea of going international, and it's not just to Mexico, but Europe. Okay. So one thing I'm going to say is, I think this would leave conferences like the SEC and the dust in terms of marketing. There's a lot of interest in those countries from people like players that get drafted in the NFL. Oh, he went to Tennessee, or he went to, they want to know where these players are playing before they get to the pros. There's actual obsessions, abroad of college players. So I think giving Mexico or Europe that exposure is amazing.
Well, you said it, Adam. We talked about it for 15 minutes, and that's exactly what Brett Yormark wants, or in early May. A couple of football notes. Brett. Can we rename the watch list, the UCF Mike watch list, first one out for the upcoming season? Defensive lineman Josh Saliskar among 42 candidates for the 2023 Lot Impact Trophy watch list. Watch list released on May 4th. That's the UCF Mike watch list update. And believe it or not, the coaches tour starts next Wednesday. Murph's in Atlanta, and they're calling it this year the Night Nation Celebration. Other locations, Atlanta, and then they make their way to Orlando. So a smaller number of them, but more widespread. This one, Gus Malzahn already out there tweeting about it. He's looking forward to going to Atlanta, and Terry Mahajer. Hey, if you're going to it, DM me at SignPads. I'd like to talk to you about what your experience was like, and we'll maybe get some reaction on next Thursday's show. Yours truly, though I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, had a birthday this week, and I did not do what our next guest did this recently. Henry Willis, part of the Greater Orlando Alumni Chapter, turned 69 years old, and he decided to do something to raise a little bit of awareness about physical fitness, as well raise some dollars for our friends Jan and Britt and Britt's bunch on his 69th birthday, participating in a 69-mile bike run, 69 push-ups, 69 sit-ups, and as he told me on the phone yesterday, 6-minute and 9-second plank. Henry Willis, let us welcome you into the show. Henry, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be on your show tonight.
I like that you wanted to do this for Britt's bunch. Let's talk about this task, though. I can get my arms around the 69 sit-ups and the 69 push-ups, but let's talk about 69-mile bike ride. Where did you start and where did you go?
We started out at Burger U and then rode back into Winter Park to Lakemont and Aloma and met a group known as the Lakemont Bike Ride, which I've been riding with for 30-something years. And we then rode back out to UCF through Research Parkway, down to Oviedo, back up through Castleberry, circled back to Oviedo, then back out to Lake Pickett, and then back to Burger U.
And I got to ask you this: when you graduated from UCF, FTU, 1976, if you had made that bike ride then, you would have seen a whole lot of nothing in those parts.
There weren't even roads on some of those where we were riding. So that would have been a mountain bike ride.
Henry, which of these challenges was the toughest? Was it 69 consecutive push-ups? Did you get a second to breathe? Which of these was the toughest for you to execute?
Probably the bike ride a little bit, because it was a pretty windy ride out there. And that was, we had one about 5-minute stop and one about 2-minute stop. So it was 5 hours and 37 minutes of pretty much nonstop riding out there. My son rode the whole ride with me, and he's also a UCF Knight, which I'll brag a little bit while we had a chance. All three of my kids are Knights, so that's pretty good.
Awesome.
And the plank, was it high plank, low plank, or were you on the elbows? What's the setup looking like for the plank?
On the elbows. And I went to one of the places I work out, Orange Theory, and after we did our class, I talked to some of the people, and they went outside and videoed, and we talked about Britt's Bunch and the motivation behind doing this. There's two motivations. One is to get older people to realize that they have a lot more potential than they give themselves credit for, or other people give themselves credit for. And the other is like Britt's Bunch. And as a senior citizen, like anybody, we limit ourselves more than what other outside factors limit us on there. It's like they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's pretty much how I do the bike ride. I start out going to do 10 or 15 miles. And after I've did that, if I know I can do 15, I probably do 15 more. And pretty soon it goes on. And it's a challenge, but I prepared for it too. I probably do at least a 6 or 7 minute plank twice a week. So it wasn't like there was much doubt that I was going to be able to finish it. And so that's how I try to do it. And then when I think about the kids that Britt's Bunch serves, like I've said, it makes it pretty easy to do, because I'm finishing what I'm going to do in 6 minutes or 5 hours on the bike ride or whatever. And then I go home to a nice home with food, air conditioning, a family. A lot of these kids that Britt's Bunch serves, they don't really have this. It's not a choice that they're living in, not necessarily a choice their family's in. So what Jan and Britt do to give these kids an experience is really awesome, when they get to go to a baseball game with their family and get a hot dog. And, that's like some of these kids that go to Taylor Swift, and spend thousands of dollars to go there. That's an experience that these kids are getting that means probably more to them than the Taylor Swift to these kids.
Absolutely. Henry, I was going to ask you, you've been, 30 years biking. How did this love come about for biking? Sometimes it's a strenuous event that you're doing. How do you kind of push through that mentally?
I started actually the first bike ride I did. I had a neighbor who had MS, and she needed somebody to do a ride to raise money. So I did the MS 150, and that was back 35 years ago. And I'd been riding, like 10 or 15 miles, and I was young and dumb then. And somebody said other people are doing it, so why can't I? So I did it, and both my boys, one is 43 and the other is 31 or 32. Sorry, I can't remember their exact age, but it doesn't matter. They both did MS 150s when they were 10 years old.
Wow.
So it's that right there. And there's other challenges and other things I've done that are really more difficult than that. We did a bike ride across the state of Florida one day, 184 miles from Ron John's surf shop to the Gulf of Mexico. And that was 12 hours of riding. And
wow.
Another fundraiser I did on New Year's 2021, when COVID, I got up in the morning and I did 2,021 sit-ups one morning. And that was for the Second Harvest Food Bank.
Wow. So now we'll wrap up with this. Are you planning to do this again on the 70th birthday? That's, the 70 push-ups, 70 miles on the bike. Is that the goal on the 70th?
Absolutely. And I want to do it for either Brit's Bunch or another nonprofit that we get exposure to. I mean, a lot of people know about Jan and Brit, and they've heard of Brit's Bunch, but they don't know so much about it. So we had this on Real Radio, and we got to talk about Brit's Bunch on there, and it's been on so many Facebook shares with all of that. And now it's on Sons of UCF. So hopefully more people read it and go on their website and look and see what they're doing and donate, whether they donate because it's my birthday or they donate for some other reason. It doesn't matter why, as long as they do it.
You said it well, Henry Willis. Thank you for being with us on Sons of UCF Live. Keep biking and keep doing the good things that you do for Night Nation.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you, Henry. BritsBunch.org. They are always being innovative with their fundraising and the people they associate themselves with. They've got a lot of great events coming up. They're going to have a field day with UCF athletes coming out of the Nicholson Fieldhouse soon. And what a guy right there, huh? Have either of you ever ridden a bike that far, 69 miles?
Not that I know of, not on purpose, but I gotta commend Henry because he's smart. He did not do 69 pull-ups, which would have probably been pretty impossible. So I like the way that Henry planned this out. A few times in my life, Trace, I've done the CrossFit Murph Challenge, which is run a mile, 100, I think it's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run another mile. And I typically want to then run myself right into the ocean and just drown. So for Henry to pull that off is pretty impressive. But smart man, no pull-ups. I like that.
Pull-ups. Are you still doing that thing where you jump on the box? I remember you posting a video. Was that on Instagram? You posted.
I try to get out every now and again, Trace, and get a little box jumping in. I mean, I don't hit the 40 every time, but every now and again, need a challenge. If 70 is Henry's next goal next year, I say we all train for this here, Sons of UCF. We get the community behind it. I say we make this a big deal. Let's do a big day and get everyone involved. And UCF Mike, I'm sure will not have a shirt on, of course, and we can figure out if all of us can get out there and help Henry out next year.
Absolutely.
Leo, how about you?
Except for Mario, who can't ride a bike.
Did he just post earlier that he's got an electric bike? Leo, what about you? How far have you ridden a bike?
Furthest I've done is 15 miles. That's nothing compared to what Henry did. So, it's a little embarrassing for me just because I'm younger and, it's like, come on, like I can get out there and do another at least 15 more. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with Adam. I feel like, it sounds crazy, 70 miles, but being in the military, I have mentally prepared myself enough to do any strenuous activity. So.
Well, we're glad Henry could join us. Moving along now in the show. How about a little softball? They are on a roll. Sarah Willis with the third perfect game in UCF softball history, the first 7-inning perfect game. Knights 33-19, 12-3 overall. Let us hear now from the voice of UCF softball, Eric Lopez, who gives us a little recap and preview.
All right, guys, it's the final weekend of the regular season. Hard to believe in college softball. UCF coming off a sweep over Houston on a historic weekend where Sarah Willis threw the first 7-inning perfect game in program history, first perfect game in 20 years, third overall. Put it in perspective, that was my 571st game last Friday night I've called of UCF softball. Never called a perfect game, never seen a perfect game in person. But that was the story with Sarah Willis. She was electric. She followed that up with a 2-hit shutout and earned the National Pitcher of the Week, joining Gianna Mancha in 2021, and of course Shelby Turnier in 2015 as the only Knights pitchers to ever win National Pitcher of the Week. The Knights dominated Houston in the series with good balanced offense. Kennedy Searcy leading the way in the leadoff spot, going 7 for 11 on the weekend over Houston, as the Knights outscored them 19-2 in the sweep. So they're 33-19 overall in the season with an RPI of 31. They go to Memphis for their final American Conference regular season series. The Tigers have had a rough year in their first year. Head coach Stephanie Van Brakel, they're in the 200s RPI. So the Knights cannot take this team lightly. They must sweep this series. And if they do that, they're going to play them again, because the Knights currently are a 2 seed right now in the America. They've locked that up, and more than likely they will play Memphis next weekend in Tampa. So they got 4 games against Memphis. That's going to hurt their resume a little bit, even if they win all 4 games. But that's probably what's going to happen here in the next week with the American Conference Championships in Tampa next week. Wichita State clinching the regular season title. They will be the 1 seed. UCF will be the 2 seed. Looks like Memphis likely to be the 7, and then everybody else goes to sort itself out over this weekend. Of course, the Knights are in good shape to make the NCAA tournament. It's looking more and more, though. UCF will be going to Tallahassee if they make the NCAA tournament. As Florida State beat Florida on Wednesday night, the Gators, each loss they have makes it more and more realistic that they will not host a regional for the first time since 2004. And it is very realistic that we could see UCF, Florida, and Florida State in Tallahassee in the same region. That is a very strong possibility, which would be an earth-shattering in the state of Florida. Chloe Evans, a monster year. She's on track to become the 5th Knight ever to slug over 600 in a season. She is one of 8 Knight players to have 42 RBIs or more in a single season. She is 1 triple away from the single season triples record, trying to break Tiffany Lane's record. Chloe Evans with 7 triples, Tiffany Lane with 8. She's also got 13 doubles, 3 away from the school record. Aubrey Evans, the freshman from Apopka, has 15 doubles herself. It's a busy time in sports. The softball season's going into postseason, as we know, joining the NBA and the NHL, which for me, it's a busy time as well going on in postseason. Go Panthers, go Heat, and go Knights. Charge on. Back to you guys.
He's suddenly jumping on that Florida Panthers bandwagon. I never hear him talk at all
he's
about
in good
the
luck.
Panthers.
Yeah, he's in good luck, Chase. They were down 2-0, 3 in a row. They've stormed back, taking a 3-2 lead midway through the second period. So they're already up 1-0 on the road at Toronto. This could be a big game if they can pull this out tonight.
So softball ends at Memphis Friday at 7, Saturday at 3, Sunday at 1. The AC Championship begins next week, Thursday in Tampa. Knights looking good. They're getting the pitching. Now, shift over to baseball. The offense has come alive. They missed a 2-point conversion, but beat North Florida 16-10 on Tuesday night. Leo, you were out there. Program record, 8 home runs in the game. That sets the all-time home run record, 83 home runs. In 2010, they had 78. There's still a lot of games left on the schedule, so they could close in on 100. Key here, though, Knights 8-4 in their last 12, 26 home runs, 6.37 ERA. Leo, you caught up with head coach Greg Lovelady. He talked about where they are in the stretch run here.
We just got to continue to work hard and get hot. You know what I mean? Like, be more consistent on the mound, really figure out, starters and get those guys to pitch well, do a good job of putting the guys in a good position in the bullpen. And then offensively, we just got to, continue to build off of today, and we got a lot of great players, and we just, you're not all probably going to have all 9 guys rolling at the same time, but we just need to be able to score runs and put together good at bats, and everybody needs to play their part, and find a way to win games.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the Knights with Nate Marrero. He has returned to Sons of UCF Live. Of course, he is the sports editor at NSM Today. Nate, welcome back.
Thank you guys for having me.
I want to talk a little bit, preview something that you're working on. You're doing a feature on Ben McCabe, and he is now the all-time leader in home runs for UCF. How's that story been coming together for you?
Well, I mean, I don't want to take credit, but let's just say, like, after the interviews is when he did hit the 2 home runs to break the record. So right now it's just kind of outlining it. Got a lot of stuff on my plate between that, the Orlando Sentinel, but in about 30 minutes from now, tomorrow, I'll be graduated from UCF. So once that's done, I'll be able to focus on that and other stuff.
What's it been like getting to know him a little bit better? And you've done some research. You've talked to some other people that have been influential in his life. And I mean, he's an unlikely guy, right, to emerge as the home run leader. When you look at all the history of UCF baseball, you wouldn't have thought when this guy arrived on campus, this is going to be the guy. No,
I mean, he was what's funny is he played at Sarasota High School, which is a tradition-rich high school. I think they had a Coach Metcalf, who won like 950 games. And like he didn't even catch until like freshman year of high school. And like, so, I mean, his bat's been coming along. I think Lovelady said he had like some backside power, but you can never really like, it's a kind of a crapshoot with recruiting kids. You know, it's you don't know what you're going to get. And he's really been one of those guys that's kind of, I wouldn't say outperformed expectations, but to become an all-time home run record, I think that would have been a surprise to anybody.
Nate, let's just say for a second that there was a member of the Sons of UCF that hasn't seen any baseball games like the last 2 weeks. I mean, not me specifically, but let's just say somebody. How would you sum up the last couple of weeks of Knights baseball and kind of what this team has done and sort of where they are right now based on what you've seen?
I mean, they've gone 8-4 in their last 12 games, which is good, but they could easily be like 10-2, 11-1 if they just pitched better. You know, their offense can hang with the best of them. They're averaging like, 7 runs a game? But the only thing is their pitching's allowing like 6. You know, it's just like going into the season, you weren't. I mean, I think Ben Vespi getting hurt just kind of threw the starting rotation for a wrench at the beginning of the year, and they've never really been able to find their footing. I mean, if they could just get just decent pitching, they can. I mean, they can be up there in a very in an AAC that's very wide open.
Moving forward, Nate, it's only a couple games, a couple series just to finish off the year. The regular season. Is there any hope this team could, get it together for the AAC? And I mean, at least get to the championship. I'm not going to put, winning it, but make it to the championship and give ECU or somebody a run for their money in this conference.
I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's just like I said, their offense is probably the best in AAC. I mean, they've scored 10 plus runs in how many games? But it's just it all comes down to pitching. Pitching wins championships, and the way they've been pitching, it's just hard to put your bets on that.
We talked about Ben McKay being one of the stories of the year. Center fielder John Rice Plumlee has, of course, also been one of the stories of the year. We know about his doubleheader between baseball and football in the spring game. Leo, you spoke with him. You asked him how he was feeling, how he's coming along, considering all of what he's been juggling.
I feel really, really healthy right now because finished up school this past week, and so I'm not. At one point, I was doing football, baseball, and school all on the same day, and as of now, I'm just doing baseball in a day, which makes it really, really easy. Some days I get to sleep in, and so that's awesome. But my body is feeling really, really healthy as a comparison of what it's been this year.
And I kind of have a feeling that if Henry Willis challenged him to bike 69 miles, JRP could do that too. How key do you think JRP is now down this stretch run and in the AAC championship in Clearwater?
Well, he's huge. He's he has 7 home runs so far this season. He's another guy that's kind of surpassed expectations. You weren't sure where you're going to get. He played sparingly in his final year at Ole Miss, and for him to do what he's done at the plate, and defensively, he's been good in center field. If he can keep that going, that's going to be huge for UCF.
Nate, you've obviously talked a little bit about the struggles you've seen, especially in the pitching staff. If there's one player you'd love to see sort of turn it around right now and sort of step it up, who's the one guy you think the Knights could benefit from having step up the most right now?
I feel like Dom Stagliano started off the season really well, and then he's kind of like faltered off, and then like he's coming out of the bullpen. I think if they could like get him a consistent role, like if he's starting kind of the bullpen, that could really benefit him. Like if you look at what he did against FSU, like, that's what he's capable of. And if he can get back to that form, that would be a huge boost to them. And I don't know what picture I'm going to remove from the wall for $100. I'll let you guys decide. But I mean, any of them, like Cam Leiter, I'd say Cam Leiter easily has the best stuff on the staff. I mean, he's a freshman. He's still trying to figure it out. So it's getting tougher and tougher to depend on him. Like I don't know. It's just someone like it's Rudy, Kyle Kramer, Nigeria Victor, and then who knows what you're going to get.
Adam, you asked him to name one. He named 12.
Perfect. He's not wrong, by the way, Trace. That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm not that far off. All right, Dom Stagliano. If I had to pick one, it's him.
Let's get some. I'm going to try to push some Andrew Sundin propaganda on this show because he's been on a tear the last month, and he obviously got the month of the
Player month.
Yeah, and I know he's only a sophomore, but from what I've seen, what do you see professionally from him that can translate to the pros? And does he have it? Does he have to get it to the next level?
I mean, when you look at the way he's hit, I mean, that can – like he just gets out of bed and he's hitting home runs. He's hitting extra base hits. He can do it all at the plate, and that will translate to any level. That'll at least get him a shot. So I mean, he's hit 12 home runs, and he missed like the first 7 games of the season.
Exactly.
So, like, for him to be the third, he's third on the home runs with 7 less games. I mean, imagine if he was healthy the whole year. Like, he's been such a huge part of their offense, and like as only a sophomore, he's only going to get better to however long he stays. Hopefully, he stays. Fingers crossed.
Right.
Yeah, the provocative comment from Michael Emptiness with the Andrew Sundin. If he sticks around, that home run record may be his. All right, Nate, congratulations on graduating. We know you never miss an episode of Sons of UCF Live, no matter what your business is.
Oh, for sure.
Never miss. Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. He delivers on these $100 things. He's given away a lot of money over the course of Sons of UCF Live. So you really should, unless this is, you're not wearing pants or something, which could be a whole different show. You should grab one of these pictures off the wall because Robert's good for it.
Do it.
All right, give me 1 second. Sorry, Michael.
All right, there we go. We're going Jordan.
J1.
Oh, I thought these were. This is a whole tear it off the wall thing.
Andrew's gotta go.
All right, there was a lot. Robert, that was a lot of effort compared to some of the challenges.
I take Zal. Venmo is a pain in the butt. So.
He will no doubt DM you. We hope that even though you're graduating, that you're going to still join us throughout the rest of the baseball season.
Of course, whenever you guys need me, I'm just a Twitter DM away.
Hey,
hold on, Nate. I got to know. I don't know if you went for 4 or 5 years. I'm not going to comment on that. But what was the sports highlight of your time at UCF and your tenure from the moment you walked on campus until tomorrow when you walk across that stage? What's the highlight of your time going to be?
Thank you, Nate. I enjoyed getting to know you better too.
Probably UCF softball winning the regional. That was huge.
Very
That was
good.
a lot to cover. And I almost died from the sun, but it was worth it.
Yeah, that was a hot day. I wouldn't know. I was up in the press box with Eric Lopez.
Yeah, you were next to Eric in the AC in the radio.
There was a little AC up there, but I felt for you guys in the sun.
Yeah.
Nate, thank you for being with us. I hope to see you next Thursday on Sons of UCF Live. Congratulations on graduating.
Thank
Go
you.
Knights.
Appreciate it.
Congrats.
I'll see you.
Thanks, Nate.
All right. Knights are in New Orleans at Tulane, Friday at 7, Saturday at 7, Sunday at 2. Our good buddy John Morning is donating some tickets for the next homestand. Knights play at Tulane, then they're in Ohio State, and Cincinnati, Wright State. It's going to be a while before they're back home. Adam, what do we want to do here? We got club seats to give away to the last 2 home games. That's Friday, May 19th at 6 against Wichita State, Saturday, May 20th at 6 against Wichita State. So it's a little while away. We'll talk about it again next Thursday, but we need to do something to give away these club seats, compliments of John.
Yes, we do.
No,
We didn't rehearse this, so I don't have anything
You have
prepared.
things I've lived. Don't throw you a
Yeah.
curveball.
Leo, do you have any ideas? How can we give away I'm gonna hit hot potato right over to Leo. How can we give away these tickets, Leo?
Hey, old reliable. Take it to Twitter. You've done it before with free gifts, and I think you should do it through Twitter on I don't know, maybe a quick trivia or something like that. Be nice.
All right, stay tuned to the Suns trivia on Twitter, I suppose. And
you'll talk about it on the podcast. We'll talk about it next week on the live show, and then we'll give them away following next week's live show.
Yeah, we will. But big thanks to JC Morning for donating these tickets to us. Again, two pretty cool seats for 2 back-to-back days there. So a nice thing for JC. Definitely appreciate you. Follow Sons UCF on Twitter, Instagram perhaps, and stay tuned. Maybe you'll get a chance to win these tickets.
Around the kingdom real quick before we open the mailbag. Women's tennis at large berth in the NCAA tournament. 5th straight season. They'll be in Gainesville May 5th and 6th. 38th ranked Knights, that's Friday and Saturday. 38th ranked Knights open with 17th ranked Georgia Tech. They lost to them earlier this season. Good luck to women's tennis. All right, mailbag time.
You sure?
Sounder. Let's go.
You ready? Are you
Roll
ready?
sounder.
You ready? You ready?
Oh, is this a surprise?
No.
It's back by popular demand. It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
I had to build up the dramatics to it. It just gets me every time, Trace.
There's so much caffeine. Any walk and talks? Dolly Drama. I invited him to do a walk and talk. We got to get that Robert.
Walk and talk has dried up pretty quickly. Maybe because you killed the mailbag and people are bitter. I don't know.
I didn't kill. There's a lot of questions. Capped Veej 1 This was in anticipation of, I know you had some travel this week, so you weren't able to get out a show, but he was saying, how many top 5 lists do Mike and Adam have to fill the off-season void?
I mean, this is only even more, right? Because we weren't able to do a show this week. So I have no idea. And there's not a lot to talk about. So you're looking at top 5 Suns all the time.
At Zeebles UCF, quarterback room shaping up to be inconsistent, says Zeebles, just in time for the revolutionary plan of throwing the ball downfield. After this season, the fan base might be begging for a bubble screen. Is Gus tricking us into enjoying his offense with some type of reverse pass psychology?
Man.
I don't
tell yours.
It's I don't think he is. For me, Gus, he's gonna find a replacement in the portal. And I don't think it's a big deal. We know who QB1 is going into next season.
Do we? Do we though?
It's clear. It's clear. We don't need that really.
Especially when the UCF Twitter account's responding.
Right, exactly. So
the Heisman questions, and they're fronting up JRP.
But the thing is, you never know with Gus. He might throw us a curveball. He's put it past him if he tries to do it.
Our buddy Brian W. Peterson, with a provocative question that got a lot of talk going in the mailbag post on Twitter. People assume JRP will get hurt at some point because of his play style, and that UCF's going to need QB2 in 2023. He goes, I don't remember this panic in 17 or 18 when KZ was QB1 and he ran the ball, didn't slide. KZ's freak injury aside, what's so different about JRP? I will tell you, and I saw this as one answer. For me, there is a little PTSD about that moment with KZ that I think about. And I think we also saw JRP with a hamstring injury last season, concussion situation at one point. With his style of play, I think there is concern. I mean, how many teams go through a season without needing QB2 at some point? So, I mean, are any of you going to say UCF's not going to need QB2, Adam?
Yeah, I'm not saying that. Maybe I just have, revisionist history here. I don't recall McKenzie being reckless. Like, I don't recall him lowering his shoulder and trying to hurdle over dudes. I mean, he was certainly a runner, and you're going to get hit when you're in the open field with the ball. But I don't recall him being reckless. And I'm not trying to call JRP reckless, but he certainly has told us, Tracy was in media, and he told you all he likes to lower the shoulder. I think somebody asked him that after the first or second game, why didn't you slide? And he was like, I was there. I want to lower the shoulder. I don't recall KZ, KZ
we were concerned about that when he said that too, right?
Right. I think the other thing that we forget, though, and I think this is also a testament to how tough McKenzie was, right? Because we know, like that Memphis game, for example, the helicopter game, we know he was hurt leading up to that game. He had a shoulder injury. It wasn't publicized before the game. So I think this also is a bit of McKenzie was a really tough dude, right? And he had a lot of bumps and bruises, took a lot of hits, and we just didn't know about it till after the fact. So I think this also speaks to not so much JRP maybe being a little bit fragile, but it's almost talking more so to McKenzie's toughness.
Yeah, no. Last year we saw it time and time again. JRP just, maybe not being cautious, lowering that shoulder. The helicopter against FAU, even the hamstring injury against Tulane. Those are scary things, right? So I think if he just cuts that from his game, he'll be all right. He'll be fine. We won't need QB2 if he just cuts that away from his game. But who knows?
Put me down for UCF is going to need QB2 at some point at the JC Morning, who is donating those club seats that we will be giving away. With both Thomas Castellanos, now with Boston College, and Will Bone, we hardly knew you entering the portal. No new additions as of yet through the portal. How comfortable are you with the quarterback room, and do you think UCF's going to add somebody? I think we saw a little talk maybe about the Charlotte quarterback who entered the portal and the Will Healy, former coach at Charlotte, connection there. I wouldn't call it comfortable. I think they're going to need quarterback too. I don't know enough yet about Timmy McClain, whether he can beat QB2. I guess he's in line for it now, but I do think they need some more guys in that room, at least one.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say this. I'm going to go ahead and say this. This is the year. John Rice Plumlee has improved so much under this offense. He's focused. He's having fun, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a dark horse for the Heisman.
How do you know he's improved much in this offense?
It's not me. It's just the Twitter. It's UCF Twitter.
He gets his news from Twitter.
Yeah, it's all Twitter.
Adam?
I think we know Timmy McClain played a full season pretty much of QB in Division I football. Now it was the Cow, so it's really Division III.
Not a good team.
He was on the field. He got some live reps in. We all saw him in that Black Friday game, and he gave us a bit of a scare, right? I mean, it wasn't like we blew him off the field. So I think he has some talent there. My hope is that the coaching staff sees enough in him to say, okay, we've got somebody who's serviceable. Anytime you go from QB1 to QB2, you expect a bit of a drop off, right? I mean, that's why they're QB2. Perhaps that, the coach staff is thinking that, Timmy has enough moxie to lead us there. My interpretation of the spring game, and again, I'm certainly not a quarterback expert, while Timmy did not look as technically proficient perhaps as some of the other quarterbacks, he just made plays. He seemed to get the ball to the right guy. The ball moved down the field. He seemed to be able to make a play when he needed to. So maybe there's a bit of a gamesmanship, as George O'Leary might say, fieldsmanship there that will help us from a QB2 perspective. But I certainly would feel better if I knew we had some talent behind him that we could quickly plug and play. But you brought up a great point, Trace. In 2018, none of us were over here going like, Daryl Mack's the man, right? So I think there's always a bit of uncomfortability with QB2. And sometimes someone gets in the game and surprises you and does some great things. So I don't want to do hope because that's not a strategy, but my thinking is that there's enough in Timmy McClain that I think the coaches feel comfortable that he can go in there despite being 1-11, which is a fair point, and at least make some plays and move the ball down the field. Because here's the thing, our quarterback at UCF, just hand the ball off to one of the fast guys behind you or run the little bubble screen with the fast guys on the outside. And I think our offense may be okay.
So would we agree that Mikey Keene and Tommy Castellanos were, backups that we could plug in and they were talented and we could depend on them? Would you guys agree with that statement?
I think you would say Mikey Keene. I don't think we saw enough from Thomas to say that.
Yeah, I just wondered because maybe those are statements they're making leading the program. Oh, well, I never got my shot and I thought I was talented enough to, be a QB1. I don't know if that's how they work.
That's a great point, Lee. I'm not going to do the research, and someone's going to probably call me an idiot when they do it. But the 2021 Mikey Keene stats versus the 2021 Timmy McClain stats, whose were better? I don't know. Because they both played that 2021 year. Mikey pretty much played the whole year after Gabriel got hurt. I mean, so Leo's got a fair point. We didn't know much about Mikey, and he kind of figured it out. Although obviously, 8-4 season wasn't what we wanted. But I'd be curious what that differentiator would be in the stats when those two players had a full year to play.
And to Brian's point, maybe about being concerned about JRP, if he hangs in the pocket longer, which is what Darren Hinshaw wants him to do, and is running around less, maybe we've got a reduction in that injury probability, right? At UCF, he's asking about Timo's biggest blunder so far. He has listed 4 and another. Not keeping the war on I-4, trying to make Houston a future rival, getting rid of pewter and anthracite, promoting renderings but not funding those renovations, and then, of course, the other. I think if those are the 4 choices, trotting out the renderings. But then, he has come back and said they're going to invest $12 million in some enhancements, maybe cosmetic, but the delivery on the renderings still seems a bit off.
Yeah, if those are my only, there's another option there, I suppose.
What do you fill into other then? What's your other?
Right. Look, I think I think we've got it. I don't know if it's a blunder because I don't know if we know the answer, but I'd love to see us increase our assistant coaches' salary pools. I don't know how much of that is on Timo, but I think we've talked about the portal. Everybody we've seen in the portal has left to follow a former assistant coach who's gone on to other pastures. Now, some of that is because of the Gus Malzahn coaching change, but I'd like to see us figure out a way to increase revenue on the coaching side, particularly on the football staff.
At Black Gold _Ed, Gus congratulated his former Auburn players who are drafted in the NFL. He says it feels weird, probably smart for recruiting. What say the Suns? I think it's a class act. I'm fine with it. No issue at all. And it just sends a positive message out there. We didn't really talked about it last week because it was going on. Any surprise from either of you on no Knights being drafted? We thought maybe Alex Ward, a slew of guys, of course, signed free agent deals, but Alex was not drafted. Surprise? No surprise.
Moderately surprised because I thought that a team would have wanted to lock up a long snapper if they really, really needed one. But the draft always falls a little differently. So moderately surprised that Alex didn't get his name picked on that last couple of picks. Probably the biggest surprise, Trace, was Isaiah Bowser essentially waited a couple of days and only really got some camp invites. 2 camp invites, which is cool, but that's not a guarantee of any sort. where you saw some other guys at least get some opportunities to go to rosters. 2 Jaguars this year. Usually only 1 Trace. We got 2 this year. Ryan Svoboda to the Lions.
Knew there would be one.
We knew there'd be one. Anthony Montalvo, friend of the show, down to the Dolphins, which is pretty cool. But a surprise Bowser didn't get a sniff there as a bigger running back in a position that your NFL kind of churns through. You would have thought he would have got an opportunity. So I guess that's my bigger surprise. But good on Gus for congratulating his players. I think it's a good coaching move, and he probably recruited a bunch of these guys, promised them to get to the league. So I think it's a good full circle moment to get him an opportunity to say congratulations to those guys.
Leo, besides Alex Ward, you got to think is going to make that Rams roster. Which of these guys do you think is most likely to be on one of these teams in the fall?
You said Leo as if he's with us. Trace, it's just you and I, buddy.
I didn't realize we lost Leo. All right.
Hold on. Leo's back. Hold on. You can ask your question now. Leo has returned. There he is.
Leo.
There you go.
All right. I'll just move ahead to the next question. Leo, we'll skip your thought on that provocative question that I asked at Mr. Nightman _ with 2 questions. This is an interesting one. Is UCF involving any AI in designing plays? If so, does it have potential to be self-aware? Are there any ethical concerns regarding fairness of teams using AI in play design? This is another George O'Leary's mind-blown concept. AI, artificial intelligence in the crafting of plays. I don't think they're using it, but it's an interesting concept.
That would be disastrous for college football. That would be disastrous.
No, why is it disastrous?
If it gets out to the public that the coaches are using some type of AI to formulate a play, it just looks bad. People are going to start looking at him like, oh well, what are you doing? If it works, maybe it's a different story. I just don't think it's going to work. I personally don't think it's going to work.
Look, I'm not smart enough to know anything. I'm a criminal justice major at UCF, so I'm not smart enough to know anything, Trace. But if one AI engine creates an offensive play, couldn't the same AI agent create a defensive play to counteract that offensive play? Like, is it smart enough to outsmart itself?
Right.
I don't know. I skipped a lot of.
I think AI was used in that 64-yard boomer field goal attempt last season. I think that was an AI designed call. At Mr. Nightman, another one. He sent a photo with this, but he's talking about that image of the Nitro head on that big wall inside the arena. He goes, "Why isn't there a massive mural on this wall celebrating representing the student section?" He goes, "I think that projection has been off key since 2007 and irks his OCD." There's an area in need of enhancement. That big blank wall. So I agree with him. At Love Not War 311, over under 10 wins for men's basketball next year. And will UCF win a conference game? Been dry out of that portal so far. 10 wins. I'm going to say over on the 10 wins because there's going to be some cupcakes in that non-conference schedule. And thank goodness they still have Cincinnati, BYU on the conference schedule. That maybe there's a couple. I think 5 is the over-under on conference wins. I don't see how they get to 5.
I mean, 10 wins overall, I don't think that's far-fetched with how the roster is sitting right now. Right now, as the roster is...
There's 3 people. They've got a couple more than the 3 of us, Leo.
And I just don't see...
Dolly.
It would be a...
Leo, do you see Dolly's comment? More conference wins next year, football or basketball?
It's a fair question. It's a really fair question.
Yes,
it's a really
fair question.
I guess I'll be the next. I want to go push on this one, right? There's usually 12, 13 non-conference games, right? So, I mean, you have to win 8 or 9 of those to get yourself in position for 10 wins. If you see 3 or 4 conference wins on the schedule, maybe. I think your ceiling, and I'm not trying to be that. I'm not taking the UCF Mike position here. I think your ceiling is 13. I think 13 wins is our ceiling next year, unless there's something dramatic that happens in the portal that we don't see yet. I mean, here we are. So we had 4 guys leave. They've all 4 now found new schools. Most surprising being Jalen Young to Memphis. I didn't see that one coming, but Jalen Young to Memphis was surprising. Although I will say everyone else leveled down a little bit, but it is what it is. And yet we have only gotten 1. So we're still net -3 in the portal, and we're going against other schools. I know Johnny's a good coach. I think he can do a lot of great things with the team, but we literally need bodies on the court. And right now that's an area we're deficient in, is just large people to play basketball. Until we can find that, I'm not optimistic.
Hey, UCF Guy 23, talking about the announced improvements for basketball, volleyball. How long until UCF just announces that they're improving facilities on a regular basis? He mentions shade for fans, things like that. It's money. They'll announce all sorts of changes if they have more money. They're doing what they have budget for. And we talked with Henry Willis earlier and mentioned Brit's Bunch and britsbunch.org if you're looking to donate to that good cause. At Brit_Jan, when using the term woo-hoo, is it acceptable to leave off the who and just go with the woo? I think she's directed that at me. She will message me, and my response, if I'm kind of positive about it, but not fully, it gets the woo. And if it's a really big thing, I'll respond with woo-hoo. So she sometimes questions me why she doesn't get the full response. I think is where she's going with that.
Lots to unpack here. I think the woo without the who is okay. You can't do the who without the woo though. Like that's because that can get misconstrued in a lot of different ways. Get yourself in trouble there, Trey. So stick with the woo. I mean, throw the who in there if you're not busy, but I'm okay because there's a woo. There's that. So I think you can do that. How many O's are in the woo though? Is it just 2 O's? Because that's not enough O's if you're gonna do the full woo. The full woo is at least 5 or 6 O's.
Yeah,
it's 2 O's.
2 O's.
And I didn't know it was a thing until she said, "What? I don't get the full woo-hoo."
I need more O's on that woo. Then is there exclamation point or no? Because if not, then it's not exciting.
I think that varies. I think really liking what she has said or others have said will warrant the exclamation point. I don't know. I haven't studied this.
Are you an over exclamation point user? There's a lot of those people in my life who are like, "Good morning, Adam," with an exclamation point. You don't have to yell that at me. It's fine. It's just morning. But there's a lot of people who are very over exclamation pointy, and it's a bit of an annoyance. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I do like the exclamation point. It's real close with that and the ellipses. I use the ellipses a lot.
I'm a big ellipses fan. Top 5 punctuations that annoy you, Trace. Let's go. I also hate when people write my name.
I don't like the semicolon.
Why is it there?
Not a fan.
I'll throw in an ellipses where there should be a semicolon. I don't like the semicolon.
Agreed. Or a dash. I hate when people write my name inside of like a sentence where we're talking. Like, so if you and I are texting, and you're like, I don't know, Adam. Like, you don't need to say my name. We're talking to each other.
You do realize that they sent my message you. I'm gonna do that.
I know you are. Everyone will. So, I go to Mario for my English punctuation advice, and he's spot on this one. Spot on.
Is there a way to combine all of Mario's comments during the whole hour-long show? Because there's been a wide variety of Mario comments.
We could.
From biking to semicolon.
Some of them I skipped over just because it's just maybe better that way. But
want to thank Henry Willis, and again, happy birthday to him and all the good work he is doing to raise profile for physical fitness and directing some dollars to britsbunch.org. And of course, Nate Morrell, congratulations on graduating and being with us to talk UCF baseball. Leo, thanks for being out at UCF baseball this week to talk to Coach Lovelady and JRP and others. And I think we've done the best we can. Thanks for Nell Hall for not being on the show this week.
Well,
I kind of threw things a little wobbly there right before we went on. And thanks to all of you for sending in your questions and your comments during the show. You guys have a good rest of your 4th of May. And for Adam and Leo, I am Trace Strelka. Go Knights!
Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. Be safe, friends.
Joey Grant, former number 55 center. And thanks for watching the Sons of UCF. Tune in.